our agenda is the same every month. We'll go around the table real quick and get everyone's introductions. I always cover one resource of the month, so I've got that built in here, and then we'll have you guys go. Armin, that's where your slides are. And then after Armin speaks, or Lawton speaks, we'll cover an agent attraction topic or resource. And then really the meat of today's meeting is going to be talking about the shifting market, what's causing it, how to leverage it. So I'll just tease it with, hey, in the first half of this year, you didn't have to know shit to sell a house. Well, now we're getting into more of a professionals market, which puts a premium on our skill set, right? Because you can't just throw a sign up. You can't overprice it by 200 grand and actually get it, or underprice it by 200 grand and get it bid up to that level. Because, you know, I've even seen real estate coaches that say you can't underprice a home. That's simply not true. I've seen it happen. People underprice a home in a normal market. 90% of the buyers think there's something wrong with it, and the one guy buys it on the cheap. So the advice that we give to our clients in a market where you have to be smart about this stuff will make them money or lose them money. So that's why we train so much. So anyway, we'll kind of talk about the forces that are at work and then how you can use those to your advantage. First thing we always start with is a resource of the month. You know, EXP has almost innumerable things that you can use to lever up your business. Today, we're going to talk about a couple that actually make you money. So show of hands, how many of you have used the preferred warranty company or Utility Connect at this point? Anybody? All right.
I've tried to use it, and it's been kind of a clunky experience.
Which one?
I've used both. So I've purchased a couple of America's Preferred Home Warranties, and I think I tried to use the Utility Connect once. I'm going to try it again on a transaction I've got in escrow right now.
Yeah, I've been using them. I haven't had any clunkiness. In fact, I have a deal closing today, and I emailed him the beginning of the week and said, hey, be on the lookout. Utility Connect's going to be contacting you. And he said, yeah, I've been talking to him for a week already, getting everything set up. So, you know.
Are you just sending the referral link to basically have the client initiate that connection?
I'm going to show you how you do it. And this is how I do it. You could, I don't just send them a link, just so you know. You could though. I've also integrated both of these into the prior to close orientation meeting slide deck. So if you're not doing that with your clients, I encourage you to, because it increases their awareness of this stuff, right? And the best way to have somebody have a silky smooth experience is to tell them what to expect and then deliver on it, right? Well, if you don't make them aware of what's coming, then that's when people get nervous or they're surprised, they send you emails like, what does this mean? Whatever. So that meeting really is a multiplier for their opinion of your service, plus best time to get a testimonial. So strongly encouraged. But let's start with the preferred warranty program. So the program's just like, you know, if you've been with our firm for any length of time, we've always been of the mind that you should provide a warranty with every customer anyway. And I do. I get them on all my buyers. I get them on all my listings. And it does a few things for me, right? So number one thing it does is it helps with negotiations on the inspection, if you have one. I know in the previous 18 months, we haven't had many of those. But now that we're getting into more of a normal market, you probably will start seeing those more often. And if you're a listing broker, it gives you the ability to say, hey, we're going to fix X and Y, but we're giving you a warranty. So we're not going to mess around with Z, whatever it is, right? Because it's covered. You know, a great example is buyer says, hey, I want you to replace the water heater because the inspector says it's beyond its useful life, right? We've all heard that, but it works fine. And your seller's like, screw that, I'm not replacing that. And that's a great opportunity to go, you know what? Let's not, but let's I'll provide a warranty, which at that point I've already done. And I'll just tell them, hey, if it fails, you got a free one coming because you got a warranty, right? And then all of a sudden that issue goes away. I mean, my water heater, we replaced it 2 years ago, 23 years old. And the life expectancy is 8 to 10 years. So don't be surprised when your seller's mad when they ask for that when it's working fine, right? So anyway, warranties help ease that pain. And when you're a buyer's agent, you can use the exact same logic on your client to make them feel better about whatever the seller's refusing to do, right? And I think that's probably a more powerful example in this current market, right? Because we still have sellers who are grieving the market that just closed, right? But might have that trailing arrogance about it. Like, screw them, I'm selling it as is, you know, because my neighbor's house was worse than mine and he sold his as is in May or in, March. So in that instance, you're going to have buyers who are disappointed, and this can be a salve for that disappointment. So, yes, sir.
On that slide, sorry.
That's all right.
Are you getting a warranty once you get listing box signs?
Yeah. Yeah. So the warranty, I'm glad you asked that because I didn't mention it. The warranty covers the listing period and a year after closing. So it could be a 14 or 15 month 1 year warranty. And I've had deals where water heater failed when the home was on the market and not yet gone into escrow. Boom, popped a new water heater in there. You pay a deductible, which is basically to pay the company to come out and go, yep, it failed. And on this one, it's $100. So the plan is a $425 plan with a $100 deductible. You can actually get, like, I think there's a $475 plan where it's $50, but I mean, $100 is not much. Our old plan with First American and Old Republic both were like a $75 deductible anyway. So I just went with this one, but it covers 24 standard items. And I mean, look at the list: attic, exhaust fan, dishwasher, microwave, oven, central air, central vac, freestanding range, garage door openers, garbage disposals, blah, blah, blah. You can also get enhancements for, what's a good example? The garage door opener is a good example. It covers the opener. What if your tracks fail or your spring fails or something like that? There are additional enhancements that you could include if you had a client that was nervous about it. I'll give you another example. I had a listing in Kirkland. It was a flip. The contractor was a referral, so I didn't really know him or his quality of work. We get the inspection results. This is like 5 years ago, so we had inspections. There was 30 items on the inspection, which told me my contractor is not that great, right? But also a typical inspector that's trying to prove his value, right? That's how inspectors usually fall. Good ones that are thorough, that don't try and kill deals, others that are trying to prove their value. That's what this guy was. So this particular house had a pool, and my client never touched the pool heater. And that was one of the things that was, suspect. And it didn't fail, it worked, but it was 40 years old or whatever. And so I paid another $125 on the warranty to get the pool equipment covered. It was a rider that you could buy. And then my client said yes to like 27 of the 30 things. My warranty thing covered 2 of the remaining 3, and we just said no to the last, I forget what it was, but it was either super significant and too expensive or insignificant, didn't matter. But the point is, for an extra $125, I put $1 million deal together that wasn't going to go together without, and that's nothing, right? I mean, that's an insignificant extra expense for me out of a $30,000 commission. So use warranties like a weapon.
We call and look.
I didn't look at their service level agreement, but it's typically 24 to 48 hours. So Yeah, if it's a failed furnace or water heater, they'll be faster because furnace, you could be freezing to death, and water heater could be water damage, right? But it's an 800 number you call and you get someone immediately, and then they triage it to see how fast they need to get out there. It's pretty effective.
The
And-
septic is included in that 425, or is that an add-on?
No, that this list and this list are all part of the standard.
Wow.
They just wouldn't fit on one page. Pretty good, huh?
Because that's feedback. I just ordered one. First American.
Yeah,
Not
really.
They can cover like furnace and water heater, basically.
They didn't even have furnace.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
no, with First American, you had to add the furnace and water heater.
Then it's like,
Yeah, it was a pretty healthy bump. I think all these warranty companies have, some blind spots. So you want to be careful about over promising, but give them the brochure. That's what I do. That's what I did when I changed the prior to close orientation meeting, was so that I could get into their hands the disclaimer, right? Because it'll say in there if something is not covered. Now, what does your client get? Well, they get peace of mind, right? And one of the dialogues I always say is, hey, my job is to help you find the right property. The inspection is going to help us feel good that it's going to remain the right property. And the warranty is going to protect you if over time something were to fail. So it's really this sort of bundled package, make you feel warm and fuzzy, deal for buyers. Make sense? Also with this program, and this wasn't true with First American, is you can pick your own contractors. So that's pretty cool, because every homeowner has like somebody they trust and they know won't screw them on the fees, and they can use them as long as they're licensed and bonded. So that's a huge benefit. And like I said, you get a new furnace or water heater or whatever for that $100 deductible. Now, benefits for us, you get a client that raves about you, especially if something fails and they get it fixed for free or for $100, right? America's preferred home warranty also will provide you any and every piece of branded marketing that you need. So those brochures I'm talking about, they're branded with my name on them, but have American preferred logos and stuff on them. That's pretty cool, and that's free. They also, and this I didn't realize until building this slide deck, they have a program called Client Secure Service. What it does is it covers the deductible on an E&O claim for you if you give warranties to all your clients, like make it a matter of practice in your business. And even if your client refuses it, have them sign the form that says, I don't want one. Because when you do that, they'll cover up to $2,500 of the deductible if I get sued in an E&O claim. And I haven't heard of anybody doing that. And the irony is, I provide them on all my clients anyway. So it's a pretty awesome tool. And even if the buyer refuses, you can get covered. And you get $75 from them. And it's not a referral fee, because that would be a RESPA violation. So they call it a market research fee. So what they've vetted through FHFA is, hey, if we pay Dawn $75, but ask her these 8 questions or whatever it is, it's a survey about her experience, about our product, how we can make it better, all these things, can't we pay her for that? And RESPA said, yeah, you can. So they just don't call it a referral fee, right? So I'm getting $75 back on every closing, and that's not a bad thing, right? So both of these resources today are money makers for you if you use them. So Matt, I would encourage you, if you, like, your description was just vague enough that it sounded like maybe more of a perception than a clear, yeah, this went off the rails. So just be open to trying it again, and it could be a moneymaker for you. And if it's not, share with us, because we don't want our clients to have bad experiences either.
Yeah, quick question. I just put a comment in the chat. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot, or maybe it's coming out of the settlement somewhere and I'm just not seeing it. But I don't think I've gotten any reimbursement from APHW on the warranties that I've lined them up with.
You can go into their, their booth in the partner expo hall in EXP World,
Okay.
right? And you can talk to them there, or you can send an email or a message through Workplace to the regional for our region.
Okay, cool.
And I only know this because I asked the same thing, because I had my first deal where I did this closed like in April, and I was researching it this week to see if I got paid. And in their system, it said that it was paid, but I think that referred to them, because when I reached out, he said, yeah, it doesn't show in our system, but it can take up to 30 days after. So I'm guessing I'll get mine this month for an April closing. But it's, I'm not sure. My assumption is it goes to the office and then flows through your split, but I'll be capped after today. Like the deal that's closing today, I'm capped, so I'll end up getting it all anyway. But because it's like a marketing research fee, it might not, it'd be illegal if it were commissions to pay it to me. So I don't know the answer. Yo.
Is this just an EXP value? You have to be part of EXP.
This is a third party, so you could use that company, and I'm not sure if they do the $75 to anybody, but I'm guessing they do. It'd be worth checking out. So shoot me an email, I can give you the info, or shoot a picture of the screen. Yeah. That's, well, when I asked the guy about my check, he told me what I just told Matt. Make sense? This next one is even more kind of cool and interesting. It's my thing will work. And my computer has frozen. Jeez. Utility Connect. So I have always felt like we could do better to deliver more of a concierge style service in the closing when utilities are getting transferred into the buyer's name and all that stuff. And we do a good job. We do a better job, I think, than most firms, because we have that prior to close orientation meeting. And we give them a handout that includes all the names and phone numbers of all the utility companies. But my clients still say, what should I do? Or what do I do now? Right. And so Utility Connect is a solution to that. They deliver a concierge style service for all utilities plus the security systems. And they assign a person to it, but they also give you your own site to market it. And your client gets first-class service. So what does it look like? Well, that's my branded Utility Connect site. And it was prefabbed. All I had to do was upload a photo. And now it's active. And it's, I don't know if you saw it, but utilityconnect.net/headline. So it's easy to spell, it's easy to remember. And you can have yours created in seconds if you decide you want that. So Matt, the question you asked at the beginning about, do I just send him the link? I could send him that link, but I fill it out for him just to make that extra layer of, first-class service, perception of first-class service. And then I sent him an email that says, hey, be on the lookout. You're going to get a phone call. So that was, I don't know if you heard me at the beginning, but I sent that email and he said, actually, they've already called me. I was like, because that's shame on me. I don't want him to get a phone call until I've set the expectation, but it happened and it's not a bad thing. It's just missed opportunity. So this program, I've only had one person go through it and another one, the one that's closing today, is in contact with them. So I've only had kind of a limited sampling. So I'm really still trying to make sure that it's like portrayed to be, right? I want to make sure they do a good job and it's not just an upsell.
Any fees?
So it's like travel agency. They get paid by the service providers.
Oh.
And then this is the income piece. We get 15% of whatever they generate. So like the client that's already been through it, they got a security system. I got $90 because they got a security system. Free money.
Well, what about the PSC?
Whatever, we get 15% of whatever they're,
So they get paid from
Yep.
our company?
just like travel agents get paid by the airlines. So I think the big money is in the like security type products, because now you're getting hardware that's got markups in it, and the monthly fee is obviously part of that. But I mean, shoot, $90, better than not. And if like my strategy is, I'm just going to use both of these for all my clients. And if it adds up to a couple grand at the end of the year, great. I mean, so far it's already $250 out of 3 deals, right? 2 warranties and then the $90. So as far as setting the expectation and trying to make sure that if they don't have a great experience, that it's not a reflection on me, I've used this email to just set their expectation. Hey, I want to touch base about our Utility Connect service. I mentioned it in our conversation about closing. That's the prior to close orientation piece. Just want to give you a heads up, since we are within a week of closing, that they will be calling you. Feel free to let them know that the seller will be staying after closing. That was specific to the last deal I closed, and that you don't need utilities moved until they vacate. So when I sent this to the current one, I just deleted that last sentence right there. Also, please let me know how your experience goes with Utility Connect. It is a new service for us, and I want to get a sense of whether they deliver the same level of care that we do. Okay? So, Matt, if you're going to do this, I would use that email to make them aware that they're going to get a phone call, but also solicit that feedback. Because then if it's not silky smooth, they're going to feel like I gave Matt feedback that helped him make a good decision because this wasn't a great experience, instead of Matt gave me shitty experience or shitty service, right? And then let's make sure we share on our morning success hour meeting if anybody's having a bad experience, so that we can get ahead of that. But I hope it goes smoothly, because making an extra $100 out of nowhere is not a bad thing.
You just pay for your listing photos, basically.
Yeah,
You both.
between the warranty and that, yeah. Any questions on this before we move on? All right. So Lawton, you mind jumping up this end of the table and driving?
See if I still got it.
See if you still got it, yeah. All right. Just sit in that chair. You mind, Amir?
Yeah. Hey man, how are you? Matt, I see you're having a nice afternoon glass of wine.
Hey man, how can you see that? I thought I was like incognito.
What? I saw that too. And I wasn't sure if
I got a deal through inspection and a like weird HOA situation, so I'm celebrating.
When you swirled it in front of the camera, that was
Right.
a really nice touch.
Well, there you guys all go.
That's why you need to.
And don't stand up, Matt. We know you don't have any pants on, so come on.
Oh,
Well, the
man.
wine,
I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to.
I might fall over if I stand up, so I'm just gonna stay seated.
Sorry, I wasn't supposed to let that secret out. Sorry about that, man.
All right. Well, here we go. Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Lawton. I've interacted with a lot of people probably on this call, but I'm the director of sales for the Joseph Group. So I've been prior to EXP, when it was still Miller Laine, my boss worked with Ed and Scott Miller and kind of branched off. And I got picked up over there about 5 years ago. I've been working with, his name is Ian Joseph. A lot of people probably know him as well. Working with him within what was Miller Laine Property Management is now the Joseph Group. And my job over there has been pretty much every hat you can imagine, but the main purpose has been how to take rental properties and turn them into profit centers for real estate, and how to build relationships with agents in the area so that we're on your team. We're helping you not only from being an expert part of your team, but making sure that you can get that listing back and make the most money for you. I got Armin here. You guys can see him online. Armin's our new business development manager. You can introduce
Yeah, I was
yourself.
going to introduce myself really quick.
He'll be your point of contact if you lean into our services. He's just, yeah.
Hey guys, nice to meet everyone. Wait, they can see me.
And we'll send everybody a nice follow-up email. Make sure that make sure that you got the contact information. So yeah, that's kind of my intro. So what is the this is going to be kind of a breakdown of what Protect My Pipeline is, which is our partnership program with agents in the marketplace. So the Joseph Group team is a little bit outdated, but the idea here, similar to real estate transaction, is it's really, really hard for one person to do all tasks required to offer diamond level service by one individual. So we operate as a full service management team. We have individuals in each specific role to ensure that it's done properly and successfully every single time, so that when you need Armin or myself as a point of contact for your client to help build that relationship, you know that we're always going to be available. So our mission as a company has always been to create lifelong connections through our clients first mentality. We do this through leveraging modern technology and business practices that streamline the client experience. At the Joseph Group, it's not just a rental. I can't tell you how many times in my career I've heard, we don't have to fix that, it's just a rental. Or, oh, it's just a rental, I'm not worried about it. We don't look at it that way. For us, the home is an investment mechanism for your clients, and it's the home of the tenants. And we treat it that way and advise and make sure that we're maintaining that for all parties. Core values: commitment to excellence, hard work, clients first mentality, integrity, transparency, and continual improvement. So philosophy has always been clients first mentality. So our idea for you as the agent is that when you give a referral, whether that's a handyman or John Wright, the inspector, or in our case, property management, that is an A to B direct line of your professionalism and your ability to work on behalf of that client. And we wholeheartedly understand that. So the idea of the client's first mentality is that when you give us a referral, John Doe is interested in looking at this home as a rental, we are going to not only show up in the most professional manner, but make sure that we are continually a reflection of you, so that your clients see this as a massive value add. So protect my pipeline. So let's get a little interactive here. And honesty will be the key to this question. How many people have sold a home in the last, century, only to find out 3 or 4 years later or months later that they ended up selling it with somebody else?
That never happens. Never, ever.
Yeah, I had a really nice one like 2 years ago where they sold it 2 years. It was only a 2-year window and they sold it with somebody else. But day in and day out, as your new agent, you're taught to stay top of mind. Make sure that you keep in touch with your clients, keep your database streamlined. Well, in theory, yes, that is your next paycheck. In principle, I would say most agents are not doing it, right? Because we get busy, or Matt's having wine because he just had a closing, things get in the way. So part of the Protect My Pipeline is keeping you top of mind throughout the life cycle of that client. So what does that look like? We've developed 4 specific touch points in which we know in the eyes of an investor, these are intervals when you can interject as the agent to reinsert yourself with expertise to make sure that you are staying top of mind. So the first one is always a lease signing or a lease renewal. At the 3-month mark, this is kind of just more of a gentle touch, congratulating them that tenants have successfully moved in, all full steam ahead, things are looking great. The 7-month mark, we always do property survey, so a property inspection. This is a pretty key point in which the agent can insert themselves with vendor relationships. Again, just very subtle touch points, reasons to call, essentially. And then the big one is the 60 to 90 day mark, because at 60 to 90 days, and honestly, with the changes in property management laws, it's probably going to be bumped up a little bit, especially like in Seattle, King County marketplaces. But these are the intervals in which an investing client is having to have the thought process of, should I re-rent my home or should I sell my home? Maybe 1 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 20 is, should I move back into my home? But that's pretty rare. So at that interval, if you could reinsert yourself as an agent, here's your market update. Here's the market analysis. These are the trends in interest rates. Anything that, is going to help them with that thought process, you basically just booked yourself a listing appointment, right? So these repeat. They're 4 touch points. These repeat for as long as we have that client within property management. The idea being, maybe you're really good about keeping in touch with a client for a year, but we want to make sure that 10 years down the road, when they want to sell, you've been along for that ride. So service design with the landlord in mind, similar to the sales systems that everybody uses in this office. We really look at those main pain points and create systems and tools to streamline it. That includes a guaranteed tenant program, which means if we can't place a tenant in 30 days, we will basically pay the rent until we do. When we're screening, we're going to be looking at a full credit, criminal, employment background, verifiable rental history. As a company, we manage just under 1,000 doors, and we have less than 0.01% eviction rate across that portfolio. Again, giving your client peace of mind that, the state in which we live, the landlord is essentially like a criminal, is in the eyes of the government. We do everything we can to make sure that they're protected. They'll also get monthly statements, annual 1099 reporting, as well as utility and maintenance all set up. Idea here is, we have a number of properties that are big lots where owner and tenant live on the same parcel. And we have owners in Japan, we have owners all overseas. The idea is whether you live right next door to them or you're on the other side of the planet, that your rental property is safe, being taken care of, and effectively you can enjoy and have peace of mind, knowing that the home's in good hands. Kind of continuing down that avenue, 24-hour maintenance. Everything that we use is attorney tested, drafted. Unlike real estate where you have the Northwest MLS, property management can be pretty loose. A lot of competitors in the marketplace write their own leases, which is pretty insane. Again, just making sure that they're getting top level service. So how does this work for you? So it's easy, safe, and secure. So easy and lucrative. When you're meeting, say you're having your preliminary buyer meeting, what you can do is just very, smoothly introduce us as your partner. I worked exclusively with the Joseph Group. They're a premier property management company in Puget Sound. I'd love to make the handoff. So once that handoff is made, as you're shopping, similar to how you would do a market analysis when preparing your offer price, you ping a member on our team, Armin or myself. We're going to do a full market analysis for the property as a rental, so that when you're meeting with your client, you can advise them on this is what your mortgage is going to be. This is what the rent's looking like. This is what the projected rents look like over the next 5 years. And you are the expert because you can literally get down and say, it looks like this is going to cash flow $150. This is a great investment. Let's pull the trigger. Or this looks like it's negative cash flow, $500. Maybe we should pump the brakes. And I can 100% guarantee that you will be top dog. No agent in this marketplace does that. It's just not, that's just not a thing. So you are at the table with pre-underwritten approval from your preferred lender and guaranteed rents. Our company will stand behind the quotes that we give you. And you're basically now that investor's best friend. All processes notices are handled by experts to ensure that you and your client never run afoul from the law and secure. So you are logged as the referring agent in our CRM, so our customer relationship management software. And again, this doesn't expire after a year. It's a long program. As long as we have them as a client, you're going to be in that top of mind position. Yeah.
Oh, can you guys figure out what the rental thing?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Yeah. So if you have 123 Broadway Street in Bellevue listed at 1.2 million, we will run a full market analysis, provide you with, you know, like a CRM, but rental focused. It's going to give you a very detailed rent range. It's going to show you what properties have rented. It's essentially the exact same mindset you would do if you were valuing it for like a listing, but from a rental perspective.
Right.
And we take it a step further where if, for instance, we say this property will rent for $3,100 a month and they hire our company, if we cannot get it rented in 30 days, we'll cover the rent until we do. So we're not just throwing imaginary numbers out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the provide you with the CMA. Speed is key. So one of the programs that we developed, we call it like our zero vacancy program, which is from when a real estate transaction closes to when that first mortgage payment is due is usually about 45 to 60 days. Because of our close ties with real estate and our background, and we've successfully done this a number of times, we can take over the property on the day of closing, do all the pre-market work, have it marketed, have the tenant screened, moved in, and all of the major costs absorbed prior to that first mortgage payment hitting. So we really hit the ground running so that your client doesn't even have to really, if it's a positive cash flow property, in theory, they would never have to make that mortgage payment out of their pocket. So essentially, let's win this together. But let's we kind of have some newer ideas that aren't in the slide deck, which is
Sorry. So you collect the money and you send it to the mortgage company?
no. So we mainly because so if you own a rental property, we would place the tenants pay their rent through an online portal. That money comes to us.
Yeah.
We then pay any vendors.
So you
We do. Yep. And then any of the yeah,
No, I got you. But you collect the money.
correct.
And you give it to the landlord. The owner of the property.
Mhm,
And the owner probably sends it to you.
correct. And we will,
And then you.
we pay everything except for HOA dues in most cases. Sometimes we'll do HOA, but we would never do property taxes or mortgage payments.
Rental.
But talking owner facing charges, things that the owner of the home has to pay, we wouldn't pay the mortgage or the taxes. Mainly just because if you own a property, those are usually things you wouldn't want to just hand off to someone. Because if they don't get paid, then you could be in some trouble. Yeah.
And then you do your leases or contracts if you call.
Yeah. So as an agent, once you make that handoff, we are a team, but you don't have to do anything. You're not actively part of the leasing or the marketing or anything. So myself, I have a small portfolio of properties that I manage, but you'd primarily be working with Armin and then his team, which is based in our Edmonds office. Yeah. Yeah, of course. So it's all fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, everybody likes a paycheck. So one of the great things about real estate is the consistent funds, right? You know, every week you're going to get that paycheck in the mail, and it's a great win for everybody, right? So the idea is we want to help you to build more of a, am I on the top one? Okay. We want to help you build a passive income, right? Everybody wants passive income that works in real estate, but what I'd like you to picture is the most pain in the butt buyer that you've ever worked with. And then realize that property management is basically dealing with that client on a daily basis for an extended period of time for about 100 to 150 bucks a month. So it's not as glamorous as the as it might first seem. However, it is nice to have that mailbox money coming in. So the way that we make this a win for everybody is if you refer us a client, we sign them up, you're going to immediately get a $550 referral bonus from the Joseph Group to you as the agent as a preliminary. Thank you so much for your business. You're then again immediately enrolled in those touch points. But what we've been working on is a tiered system in which we will share the management fee with you as the broker. So for one property, it would be 5%. So 5% a month paid out one time annually at the end of the year. Once you refer over 10 doors, and again, this is for as long as we have them. It's not like a yearly cap or anything.
5%, 5% per month.
5% of the management fee. Correct. Yeah. And I have some example numbers that we can go over. Once you get to the 10 door mark, and again, sorry, I don't want to be a dead horse, but it continues. It's not 10 a year or one a year. This is on a continual basis as long as they are our clients. It moves up to 10%. So 10% of our monthly fee paid annually to you as an agent. And then if it's 20 or more, it bumps up to 15%.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about so 5% most of 10% after what?
10 referrals, 10 successful referrals. And then 20 successful referrals, it moves to 15% of the fees that the Joseph Group collects. So that's kind of the one profit center is that upfront 550. Thank you so much. We all work in real estate. Obviously, the commissions are significantly higher, but that's kind of our thank you for keeping us in mind. And then from there, you get that residual income paid out annually at the end of the year. So we kind of ran some numbers. And I'm sorry, I'm going off. We don't have the slides caught up with this yet, so I'm kind of going off the top of my head. But the other value add here, again, which I kind of hinted on, is where you're going to make real money is when that person decides to sell and you are the expert and you've been the expert. And it's not a question of, oh, I'll go with Redfin because they'll save me X number of dollars, or, oh, I didn't realize my neighbor was a realtor. I decided to sign up with them. You've been along for the ride, you know the property, and you're basically teed up for success at that listing appointment. We'll use moving concierge for you. So kind of my expertise is, again, how would you take a tenant occupied rental home and get it to top of market value in the least amount of time to get your clients the most amount of money? And you can lean into that. We'll coordinate all of the moving concierge. We have programs where we can use closing cost credits to get tenants out of leases. We're using it right now, mainly with the market shift. A lot of people are kind of on edge. So we're going to help get it to the market, get them the most money, and coordinate all of that moving concierge for you. So kind of some real numbers here. Sorry. So we tried to be pretty conservative. So we're looking at a $350,000 home, which is kind of a unicorn where we live. So off of one referral, and for rents, we were used about $3,000 per month, which is kind of where rents are going right now for single family homes. So you get that upfront fee, $555. You're going to get an annual referral fee, about $960. The sales commission, again, idea always is to drive it back to the sale. It's about $10,500. So in essence, off of one referral, you could be looking at an additional $12,015 at the end when it's all said and done. To the next level after, oh, and I'm so sorry, it's not after the 10th referral, it's after the 5th referral where you're getting 10%. You're going to get an upfront referral fee, $2,775 for all of them.
So it's after fifth, not after 10th.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I had the numbers switched in my head.
The other one, 20 and
20 or above is 15%. 5 or more is 10%, and then the 1 through 5 is 5%.
what?
8 to 10%. Yeah. Most, we have exponentially more on the 9 and 10 than we do on the 8. Question? Yeah, 8 is kind of sexy until you look at the math and then you realize you're not really saving money and you're getting way less support.
No, that's okay. A referral, you're going by door. So if you have a client that has like 4 rentals and they bring all 4 rentals, is that 4 doors? And is that okay?
Yeah, so that would be about just over $2,000.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's same. It's all by door, not owner. So if they had a 50 unit building that you referred over, we sign them up. It would be 50 doors. Yeah. Then you can retire.
So the referral would be referring to you, right? How far is the referral? How much I have to do it? How much you have to do it?
Sure. So yeah, if you're working with Ed, you meet with Ed. Yeah. Ed,
Buy the property and
Mhm.
I give you, or I give you, and I'll let you know that it's gonna be called.
and we actually can share with you some templated emails where you can spend,
Do some of the stuff and,
well, just literally 3 seconds canned email that says, hey, buyer XYZ, it's a pleasure to introduce you to Armin with the Joseph Group. He'll be reaching out to introduce himself shortly. Here's a link to his meetings if you'd like to set it up on your own time.
I probably for years. You know what? I'm just gonna use this. Every other one. I prefer this to a lot.
Mhm.
And but some of the questions that were brought up by the buyers was like, will this work them? What is the management company? What should they, you know, expenses high, and they could put them to me, because that's how I operate, and I rather concentrate on what I'm doing and that's something. And that's just the way I operate. And it's like send them these guys, but that would be something.
Yeah.
And their solutions are only available to you.
Yeah.
And then there also, I'll shoot you an email. Yeah. You guys have your business cards all the way, so shoot you an email as well, just to kind of.
Are you being recruited?
I was wondering, like, why is the same someone? Like, what's, we've been trying that for a long time. And then actually, he called me after he found. Thank you. I appreciate it. Most people approach multiple times.
I would just, from what you were saying, the 2 things I would say is, of all of them that you've referred property management contracts to, how many of them have referred them, the listings back to you? So that's a huge pain point.
In fact, like I said, a few of them, and at least 2 of them, I disconnected them because came to sell.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, full transparency, I mean, my background is 100% sales. I go success hours. I probably will sell, 30 houses, 40 houses this year, but I will not cross that line. No one in our company will cross that line. And if somebody was to even attempt to do so, it's pretty much immediate grounds, because the relationships that we have, similar to like a client, real estate client, once you break a relationship, you're broken. You can't get it back.
Now, this is the same example. It's my buyer, and now 2 years went by, and he wants to sell his home.
Mhm.
And you go up to him and says, hey, I'm gonna put him back with me. And what he says, no, I met Don. I'm gonna let Don, my new neighbor, and we're gonna run it. I'm gonna bring back with me.
So, like all things real estate wise, we can't guarantee anything. However, the whole idea is, because you're being introduced 4 times a year, and again, we can help you with this just because we have done it, but those are just our 4 touch points. You could also have them on your, top of mind 12 list where you're,
Right.
but the idea is, when better looking Dawn introduces herself as an agent, there's not really even a conversation, because you're their agent.
No, I'm talking about you and your dog, right? Because dogs, you don't even know about them. Ken's been telling you about a neighbor, someone.
Mhm.
He's still going to contact you. You got contact. That's what I want to do. So how do you want to do this? To convince me. Okay, got it. But what he's saying, though, he's going to notify me, and I'm hearing your name 4 times a year. Right. So even though Don moved in next door, I might interview her, but I'm probably also going to interview you, because it's taken 3 months for the last 5 years. At the end of the day, it's you beat her out. It's for all of us, right? The average person knows more than one real. So
Smart.
speed.
Some like real world example is, we have had clients that take property management is interesting, because a real estate transaction, you usually build this really intense, intimate relationship with a lot of money on the line, and it's very quick. It's like 30 days. I'd say 30 to 90 days. And there's a lot of money movement, and it's usually results in some kind of life-changing event, right? You either are really rich, or you just did a short sale, you're really not stoked. But property management is kind of different, because it's kind of lower money, much longer relationship, and you build really strong relationships with your clients, because you kind of go through life with them. So you have this like massive trust rock. So a lot of times agents, because again, we do sales, full transparency, they'll try to lean into our team. Oh, you guys know the property, why don't you sell it? And at that point, yes, we would just, again, reintroduce you. Of course we do sales, but we partner with Ed, and we strongly feel that Ed's probably the best fit for this. We're really focusing on property management growth, and we just want to make sure you get top level service. Because if you think about it from our side of the street, it's like the whole idea, you get, what's more valuable, one real estate check for $10,000, or a 30-year relationship with one of the top brokers in Puget Sound, who's going to refer us 25 deals, And realistically, as a company, we have always found that the less you focus on the money, the more you focus on the relationship with broker, with buyer, with seller, lender. That is where success lies, and that's the differentiator between, the sexy next door neighbor who's in real estate and, top broker, brokers who know what the industry is and how to perform. So. Yeah.
Go home and look at the mirror all night.
Yeah, so that's it.
The next one is just convincing the buyer that this would
Yeah, if you want to squash that super quick, Washington State I mean, if you make a pretty simple, naive mistake in Washington, you could have just lost the whole rental property. You know, you ask one wrong question and it's to the wrong person, and then next thing you know, you saved $2,000 in management fees that year, but you just lost your $450,000 asset.
I just tell people, hey, I'm licensed to do what he does, and I still take it. That risk. It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. People don't realize that. And I mean, we're good at what we do every day, and it's definitely worth monthly management. Just want that peace of mind.
Yeah. And then just to wrap it up, like I said, we'll send a recap email. I'll probably just send it to Ed. You can forward it to the team. Armin, he'll get everybody's contact information. He will realistically be the point guy. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not really in the I'm not in the hot seat anymore. I'm trying to kind of build the bigger picture. So any feedback, any good experiences, bad experiences, I'm on success hours all the time. We would love to hear them. And I think as the market is shifting and the client that is like, my neighbor just sold for $400,000 more. What do you mean we're going to list it at this price? A really cool way to retain that client is to say, I get it. The market's shifting. Like all real estate cycles, it should keep going back up, as time progresses. Why don't we look at the avenue of renting it? And then if nothing else, they'll realize that renting it is a bad option, which then makes you the better expert.
It's really powerful to a consumer.
Think of a average seller having an agent tell them that I don't necessarily want your commission. I think it's a better fit for you to go down this avenue, as opposed to like, sign the paperwork. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was my wrap. Sorry, I got a little all over the place, but yeah, thanks for having us.
You're welcome to hang out if you want to hear about the market, or you're welcome to slip out if you need to be somewhere.
Are we doing market updates?
We're talking about the shift and what's causing it, what you can do to lever it.
Can I say for 30 minutes?
Sure. Yeah. That's about. Yeah. Either or, we won't be offended when you get up. Just walk out quietly.
I'm good. I still have some. I never like.
All right. We do cover agent attraction. This one will be somewhat brief. I just want to make sure you guys are aware of this website. If you're with EXP, God damn it, and you're trying to grow your organization, growwithkrista.com whack scripts. And it's just a library of really successful people and the tools that they're using. Like, have you guys heard of Kinder Reese? So Jay Kinder and Michael Reese were one of the biggest coaching programs in the country. They're with EXP now. These are the scripts and videos that they use. Shay Black, Lars Hedenberg, Jesse is my sponsor, so you guys have met him. Rob Flick. Rob has 18,000 people in his downline. Yeah. Brent Gove is the guy that puts on every year Cabo. You guys have seen ads for that trip. He's doing Build 2022 in August in Dallas. I'm going to that. If you guys want to carpool, let me know. But make a note of this URL. I'll put it in the chat for you guys that are, I don't know why it keeps blinking. Sorry. I only became aware of this link like 2 days ago. So I've looked at probably half of the videos, but not all of them, but there's some good shit in there.
And it scripts to use when you Or talking to other agents.
It's all about that. Yep. And most of those links, there was what, maybe 25 links on there. 3/4 of them were Word documents with say this, they'll answer that, then you should say this. The Kinder Reese one intrigued me the most because it said green, yellow, and red, like A, B, and C. A is for someone who knows you and respects you and would be inclined to hear what you have to say. So you go to that script. B is someone whom maybe you've done a deal with, but doesn't know you very well, but would, you know, potentially be a candidate, because then that's more of a, hey, you know, our paths crossed once before. I just wanted to get your opinion on this, or, you know, something like that. And the third one is, this is for somebody who outproduces you. You are never going to be able to convince them that you know more about making money than they do, but they would be a good person, right? And that's the beauty of this company, is there's lots of people that, you know, owned 8 market centers of Keller Williams and have 400 realtors beneath them. They still saw that it was smarter to move their whole organization over to EXP. Brent Gove, one of the videos actually I was watching last night, he said, I got this call from my sponsor, who wasn't my sponsor at the time. And she goes, do you remember me? And he goes, I gotta be honest, no. We had met like 2 years earlier for 30 seconds, but she said, I just was very impressed with you when I met you, and I thought I'd love to get his opinion on this. He goes, that's the best thing she could have ever said to me. And he moved 100 million volume operation over because of one phone call. And he goes, I asked a lot of questions. It took me 2 or 3 weeks of due diligence to make the move, but once she got my attention and got me to watch this one video, I was now more inclined to hear the rest. So really, really good stuff, really powerful stuff, if you are so inclined. growwithkrista.com/scripts. Krista Mayshore, do you know that name, Lawton?
You have to have those special.
Yeah, /scripts. No, she's the queen of ClickFunnels. You know what ClickFunnels are? So do you know how they have the double comma club? So anybody who creates a funnel that generates $1 million in revenue, which has 2 commas in it, gets this thing that looks like a gold record, you know, the big frame like that with the circle, you know, and she's won 7 double comma awards, and they had to create a $10 million funnel award. I think it's called the 8-figure award or something like that. She got one of those, and it's all funnels for real estate. And she moved her entire business over to EXP, and she's in our group. So when you go to theagentcollective.com, which is Jesse, my sponsor's name is Jesse Zagorski. He's created this umbrella called the Agent Collective, and she's in it because he sponsored her, but it gives you access to her teachings.
Is this all you have to be part of the expedition on?
So this website, you can get some of it, but not all of it. But you can get enough to whet your appetite for it. Like this is all, I'm not logged in, this is all available. Mindset Monday. But then if I log in, it'll show me courses. See, this link wasn't there before. And there's Krista Mayshore. So I paid her $2,000 to take a class before I joined EXP and before she was in EXP, because I wanted a ClickFunnel and I knew she was the rock star. So I paid her $2,000 for this 1-week course. But at the end of the course, I got 5 of her funnels, and all I had to do was change her name to mine. Well, now I could have gotten it for free, because when she went to EXP, she makes it free to anybody that's in her downline. So it's hard to see, but it says downsizingwa.com. this is a downsizing seminar. I don't know why that's there. Anyway, you can see behind that pop-up, I don't know what that's all about, but it's a class on how to downsize, how to have the simultaneous closing with a non-simultaneous possession date. I mean, just saying that makes you sound like you're smarter than the average realtor, right? And that's what's in this class. So I got this funnel from her. I don't know what the hell that is. Do I have to click on it or what? It's weird. Anyway, I won't bore you guys with this anymore. All right.
Can you hook us up with that, Ed?
What do you want to be hooked up with?
No, just the info on the ClickFunnels, how you
Yeah,
maybe.
absolutely.
Cool. Sounds like the winner there. Thank you.
All right. So the market is shifting. We're going to cover what's happening, why it's happening, what's coming next, and how you can position yourself to win within that. But we'll let these guys sneak out in the meantime.
I'm gonna see you guys.
Yeah.
Nice meeting all of you. I'll be reaching out.
Yeah, Armin, give me one of your cards because I know you handed it
I
out.
think I give you.
I didn't get one. I don't know.
No
I don't, I don't rate. What's up with that, man? Thank you.
Don't know what else to think.
Yeah, you're not getting out of here without.
Thank you so much. You guys.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Great to see you, man. Appreciate you making the trip.
All right. Thanks for having us. Nice to meet you. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be seeing you.
Armin,
at-
good to meet
Yeah,
you.
you too.
Thanks for coming in.
Closing. We can't wait to help you get rich.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. See you guys. Sign here, press hard, 3 copies. All right. So what's happening? What do you think? Are we in a recession? We're in an adjustment.
Well, the definition of a recession is 2 quarters, right? Of
Oh,
negative growth.
It's like you got my, see right there?
Oops. Sorry.
So don't apologize. This is meant to be interactive and conversational, but Mark's exactly right. The definition of a recession is when GDP shrinks 2 quarters in a row. So Amir's not wrong because we don't know yet. We've only had 1 quarter, but by the end of June, that'll be the end of the 2nd quarter, and we will know if we're in a recession. But here's one thing that the current administration would like you to not notice. Do you know how many times we've had an inverted yield curve and not had a recession?
Last few years.
Never. We've never had an inverted yield curve without a recession. Yeah. So we had an inverted yield curve. We have one right now. So we are in a recession. We just can't call it that until we have 2 quarters to call it that. Now, the beauty, never mind what we had 51 economists that told us it was transitional inflation, all this BS that was being fed to us. None of that matters. What matters is what's the market doing now? How can we best serve our customers? And what can we do to position ourselves for what's coming next, right? So that's what this is all about. That's why I want it to be interactive, because like I said at the very beginning today, we are now in a professionals market, and that's a good thing, right? It's easier for you to differentiate yourself when it doesn't just take sticking a sign in the yard and waiting for all the offers to come in, right? Not anymore, and that's not a bad thing. So we are in a recession, we just can't admit it yet, right? But what does being in a recession really mean? Some of it's good news, right? Like 20% appreciation 2 years in a row. You guys remember the last time we had north of 15% appreciation for 2 years in a row?
Never.
2006 and 2007. you remember what happened in 2008?
Yeah.
Right. Accelerated appreciation for a prolonged period is not healthy for the economy. So having slower appreciation is a positive because we don't want it to overheat, right? And we've had 20% for the last 2 years. We had never had that before. I remember talking about 15.6% 2 years in a row and how that was the most appreciation we had had in any 2 year period. Well, guess what? We just blew that out of the water, right? With 20%. So slower appreciation is not a bad thing. You know what else happens in a recession? Rates go down. In every recession we've had over the last 70 years, rates have gone down. Now I understand they also went up 200 basis points in the last 4 months. So having them go down will be a good thing, right? And that helps buying power, right? So buyers will have more qualifying power because we're in a recession. That doesn't take away from the fact that there's going to be some people hurting. There's going to be some people who are just going to leave the market because they no longer qualify or they got job loss or, you know, the impact of a recession is real. But those that are still in and that haven't had their income impacted, maybe salaried people, will be able to buy bigger houses, which really, if they're smart, doesn't necessarily mean bigger houses. It just means a wider option of houses
For investment.
or investment properties.
That would be
That would be wise, right? What is what's his name say? Who's the guy from Omaha?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, right? Buy when people are scared, be scared when people are buying, right? Is a recession bad for sellers? Well, it can be if buyers are leaving the market, right? That's not a great thing. But
they have more buying power. Okay? There's more people to buy.
yeah,
Okay.
and we still are in a seller's market.
Yeah.
So whatever negative there is, and I'm not saying it's zero, but whatever it is, it's minimized by the fact that we still have less than a month of inventory. Now, I would predict next week we'll get the press release for May, right? Does anyone know what the current, you know, the April number was for months of inventory? 0.76, right? Like, we had a panel of really highly productive agents from this market in EXP's world on Thursday, I think it was. And Troy, remember Troy Anderson said, inventory's gone up 54%. He even gave the numbers, right? It went from 1,300 houses to 2,100 or whatever it was. And I thought, that's a significant move until I realized if you go from 2 weeks of inventory to 3 weeks, that's a 50% move, right? But it doesn't really mean shit for the impact on the market. Now, don't get me wrong, we want that trend to continue. We'd love to have more houses to sell, right? Because we've all got buyers we're working with, and you could still sell a house really well and easily if you're more prudent about how you price it, right? So, and we're going to get into that in a minute, but that's not a bad thing. So low inventory sort of diminishes the impact of all this. And remember, slower appreciation doesn't mean depreciation, right? I was on a Zoom meeting at 11 a.m. this morning talking about this exact content to a group of REO brokers from all over the country. And I asked some of them to comment about their markets because I'm talking national really with a lot of these things. And one of them said, well, prices are going down in my market. He was in Oakland, California. And I said, okay, let me ask you this question. Are prices going down? Or I said, are values going down or are list prices going down? And he goes, well, list prices. I said, I said, because that's a phenomenon of neighbor sells his house for 700, the next neighbor lists for 750 and gets 850. So this guy lists for 900 and has to do a price reduction, but it's still worth way more than 700, right? So that's why it's very important that we're speaking very clearly or questioning when someone says prices are going down, because they're not, right? Like my $4 million listing. We're not getting an offer for 4 million anymore. I had one that listed at the end of March for 4 million even, got 4.225 in 3 days, went pending. Buyer terminated and walked away from a $200,000 earnest money last week because they're fearful. Now we're back on the market. Well, when we went pending in March, it was a great market. Now it's June and it's crickets. So we have front row seat for the shift, or at least those sellers do. So interestingly, just as an aside, my client says, can we talk tonight? I want us to get on the same page. And I was like, shit, here it comes, right? So we're supposed to talk at 7:30. So at 7:15 or so, I start compiling all the stats and all the numbers and all the people that have forwarded it, reverse prospecting numbers and how many ads I've run and boosted and what the engagement and click-throughs have been on all my online market. I'm making this huge, like, I have to show him that I'm hustling, right?
Yeah.
He goes, I just want to make sure you know that we're not panicked at all. We had said we couldn't be out sooner than July 31st, but we don't need to be out until, we're staying here until October anyway. So he goes, you don't have to defend anything. We think you're doing an awesome job.
You're like,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it was funny because I said, I really appreciate you saying this, and I appreciate this conversation, because usually I'm the one trying to convince the seller not to panic, and you guys are convincing me not to panic. So it was awesome. In fact, my wife, like, she had gone upstairs, for the evening, and when I got up there, she's like, how'd that call go? And I started laughing. She's like, why are you laughing? What about REO and default in this sort of climate? Is there an impact?
impact.
Does REO get affected by a recession?
I wouldn't think in this, because most of what's happening isn't due to bad mortgages, whereas the times
True.
before,
Yeah. But in a recession, notices of default typically go up,
that's true. Just
right? Which isn't because of a bad mortgage in the context you're using it is the lender made a stupid loan to somebody that never should have gotten it, right? But in a recession, Joe loses his job, or Mary's hours get cut back, or it's some sort of impact on their income will cause defaults to go up. We're going to talk about why that still doesn't create an avalanche of REO, but yes, the answer to this question is there is an impact. It's not a huge impact, but it will rise because people's incomes could go down and inflation is still making stuff more expensive, right? If I pay over $100 to fill my gas tank right now. And I
pay $20 to fill up my Civic.
Right.
55.
And I drove 200 miles yesterday in one day, shooting photos of properties, meeting with sellers. I mean, that's an unusual day, but 100 miles is not an unusual day for me. So thanks, Joe Biden. Okay, so what about the recovery? Well, we are in a much healthier economy, so we're able to recover faster. And I'll give you some examples. But here's the reasons, right? We learned a lot of lessons during the Great Recession. We, as a government, made the Great Recession last for more than 8 years because of poor decision making. We prolonged it, and it was our inaction that made that happen. We should have just torn the Band-Aid off, right? But we didn't. Well, we're doing a little bit of that now, but not as bad because we had just gone through it, and I think people remembered that. But delaying the inevitable only made it take longer. But this isn't the same economy either, right? So let's do a little comparison. Don mentioned the Great Recession was caused by garbage mortgages, right? And that's not false. It was collapse of the housing market that caused that recession. It was a pandemic and inflation that caused this one. Do you remember what inventory was during the Great Recession or at the beginning of it?
The buyer's market.
8 months of inventory. And at the beginning of this recession, we had 1 month and it's only gone lower. So there's a healthier economy, more equipped to take on, if there was a flood of REO, it wouldn't be devastating. When you start with 8 months of inventory and then have a flood of REO, that's devastating. That's why we saw 30% depreciation. Like I remember, Don, you probably remember this as well. There was a period in our MLS back in like 2010 where 2 of every 3 houses on the market was distressed, either a short sale or REO.
So when I first came on, it was like that.
Yeah.
2014.
67%.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? Well, because we're at 0.76 months right now, we'd have to have a 700% increase in inventory just to get back to a balanced market. Not even to 8 months, just to get back to 6. So do we need to worry too much? No, probably not. Yep. And there's other forces at work that will keep it that way for, I believe, a decade. Equity. In 2010, that was an historical low of 61,000 in equity. 185,000 in equity is a record. So we have record-breaking equity in homes. What does that mean? Well, if Joe loses his job or Mary gets her hours cut back, they call Chris and put a sign in the yard because they have equity to defend, right? Whereas in the Great Recession, when Joe and Mary ran into financial difficulty and 30% depreciation made it so that making a payment on something that you owe more than what it's worth isn't a smart thing. So people walked away, right? So very different environment for that. What about unemployment? 10% in 09, 3.6 right now. And the asterisk is just because in April of 21, unemployment reached 14.5 for 1 month. Well, that's not a symptom of a weak economy. That's a symptom of a lockdown. Government sent everybody home, right? NPL industry. Do you know what NPL stands for? Non-performing loans. There is a secondary market for delinquent mortgages. That didn't exist in the Great Recession. They just went delinquent. And they went delinquent in such mass that hedge funds started going, we could buy those. And if we buy them for 30 cents on the dollar and then do a workout with the homeowner, give them a discount on their mortgage of maybe 30%, we're still getting 70 cents on the dollar for something we paid 30 cents on the dollar for, right? So what happened is that was like an experiment that became a moneymaker. Now it's a mature, efficient, lucrative market, which means a lot of these defaulted mortgages will never result in REO and go back out onto the market. Hedge funds will buy them. And there just aren't as many of them because mortgage delinquencies are way, way down compared to during the Great Recession. And that's because of the underwriting pendulum, right? The conservative nature of underwriting was way out to the right, overly aggressive, fog a mirror and you can get a loan. And that was a huge mistake. And then it swung way back this way because of Dodd-Frank, and they wouldn't give anybody a loan practically, right? Well, default rates fell to 1% during that time. Now it's at 2.37, which means it's coming back closer to the middle, which is where we want it, right? The perfect level of delinquency, some would say, is 0, and that's not true, because if you have 0 delinquency, that means that you miss making loans to some people that would have performed for fear that they wouldn't perform, and they never got a chance. So Fannie and Freddie's delinquency over the last 50 years, the average has been 4 to 5%. That's the middle of the pendulum, and we're at 2.37. So the pendulum is coming back to the middle. All this means is that NPL industry that's right above, there just isn't a lot of NPLs, right? Most loans are performing. And then the biggest kicker, and the biggest reason I say that we're going to be in a seller's market for another 10 years, is this last one. Over the last 40 years, home builders have been building an average of 2 million homes per year for 40 years. So that means 20 million homes in a decade. Look how many homes they built in the last decade.
Wow.
5 million. Because lending got more conservative, builders got more fearful. A lot of builders went bankrupt and went out of business. So they went from 2 million to 500,000 on average. This year, they're on pace to build 1.5 million homes. So it's a huge increase from the average of the last 10 years, but it's still less than what we need. And if you watch my video, my last month's market update video, you'll hear me talking about birth rates from 34 years ago. That's because the average first-time home buyer is 34 years old. So then you look back at 1988 and go, well, what were birth rates doing? They were doing this. So what that means is we'll have more 34-year-olds this year than we did last, next year than we did this year, and so on for at least the next 4 years. And then the birth rates in the early 90s started to decline, but they were still above 15 per thousand, which is when it was starting to spike, is when it crept up over 15. So you've got 4 to 8 years of more first-time home buyers than you have homes available for. So that makes all of the negativity of a recession less impactful, because it's still a seller's market at the end of the day. Does that make sense? All right.
Is it possible to get a copy of that, Ed?
Sure. The slide deck?
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think that's pretty powerful to be able to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can shoot a picture of it right now, but I'll send the slide deck out when we're done.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
include you, Amir, if you want it.
Sure.
So why has all this happened? Well, we kind of had what I would call a perfect storm, right? COVID created this vacuum of productivity, right? A lot of people went home. They were, businesses were shutting down, right? And so goods and services stopped being produced, and we ended up having a shortfall. Then you had the friggin' Suez Canal blocked by a container ship that turned sideways. I mean, we had all these goofy things, plus a pandemic that caused the government to shut down the economy. And then what happens when people go home? They tend to actually consume more goods and services. Yeah, they sit on their couch, eat more chips, right? I love that both those bags of chips have been unopened.
Buy more toys.
They buy more toys. And what if those same people that are sitting on their couches also have more money? Because the government is giving them unemployment plus $600, right?
More chips.
More chips. Exactly. So what happens when you flood the economy with $4 trillion? Inflation. And it's not transitional inflation like the government would like us to believe. And Biden's not the first one to say, oh, 51 economists told me it's transitional. Paul Volcker invoked that term the first time. Do you know that name?
No,
He was the Fed chair in the 80s,
oh,
and he mismanaged inflation. And it was under his watch that we had 18% mortgage rates. Prime was at 18 in the early 80s. Can you believe that? But he said the exact same thing. It was transitional inflation, which is pig Latin for I'm not going to lift a friggin' finger and do anything about it and watch the whole country spin down the drain, right?
So that means it's all going to disappear here soon, Ed?
What's that?
That whole inflation thing's just going to just disappear here pretty soon?
Well, if you look at the bottom, Jerome Powell has said we're going to do 5 to 6 increases over the next 24 months and get the Fed funds rate up to 1 3/4, which actually should be enough to stem inflation. But it's like you can't do it fast enough.
So I remember you predicting, you said that they were going to raise the rates in the next 2 to 3 weeks and then get a hold on it and then bring it back down, or try to.
Yeah, I believe. So the first part of this question is in the next 2 weeks. The next Fed meeting is June 14th and 15th. So it's 2 weeks away. And yes, there's going to be another increase that comes out of that. It's already been sort of layered into the market. And for those of you who don't know, I was a lender for 25 years. So I know a lot more about this stuff than we talk about on the day-to-day, because it was what I did for a living for most of my adult life. The markets actually absorb increases before the increase comes, based on the markets, the streets anticipation that the Fed's going to do something. That's already happened. So we can almost bank on the fact that the Fed's going to do another 25 basis points on the 14th or 15th. They'll probably announce it on the 15th. And the markets won't move a ton because they've already moved. Does that make sense? Now, the continuation of that comment is that's not going to be enough to stop inflation, right? I mean, our inflation right now is 8.5, and that's not even real. It's higher than that, but they use, fake numbers to manipulate and make it not sound as bad as it is. It's closer to 10. And so another 0.25% isn't going to be enough to stop inflation. And you can factor into that, housing is, I was just reading it last week, housing is like 1/3 of the inflation numbers. Well, housing is still going up. And even if it's starting to decelerate right now, they do it 4 quarters in advance. So inflation right now is reflective of Q1 2021. Well, guess what? Market was cranking and continued to crank for another 5 quarters. So it's going to still be reflected in these numbers, and the Fed's going to have to raise rates a couple more times. Then the question just becomes, is the recession still going strong by the end of the year? That answer is probably yes. Into next year, probably yes, but my gut is that it's going to curtail in that first quarter of next year, hopefully, right? But time will tell. And we need the Fed to not take the first sign of good news about inflation and change the plan, right? Because that'll be a false flag initially, and then inflation will restart. So they just have to be prudent about it. And then Mark's comment was what I had said a couple of weeks ago, which is they're going to raise rates until inflation slows back down again, and then they'll actually decrease rates to spur the economy. And it's just whether, does that mean 2 or 3 more raises and then on the 4th a decrease, or is it 2 to 4 more raises and then maybe wait a meeting and then a decrease? I couldn't tell you that, because it'll all be a function of what's happening to the inflation number. Did that answer your question, Mark?
Oh, yes. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Because that's the number one question right now by far is, you know, people trying to predict what's going on, listers, buyers, the whole thing. So
Yeah, well, and it's the fear of the unknown is paralyzing, right? That's what made those clients walk away from that. My listing was the fear of the unknown. A mere looking.
and I'm assuming that it just appears because, you know, listing buyers are more immediate. I mean, you can, as long as you get approval, you can be a buyer by this afternoon versus, you know, listings take a while, you know, usually the process of, should we move, honey? Yeah, Bob got whatever down the street for his house. Oh my God, we can get more than that. What do we need to do? The whole thing. And they probably, you know, seems like they get that number in their head and the reason they're moving and the whole deal. Well, when the market shifts, they're less likely to change up their plan because that's the whole reason they got on the market to begin with. So it seems like it's listings lag behind the buyers, you know, as far as
Yeah, because the
plans
buyer
and all that.
can decide to get out of the market or re-enter the market in an instant. Sellers got some lead up time, like you point out. But one thing that is encouraging is it doesn't matter how hot the market is, a seller needs an emotional reason to sell, right? So very few sellers go, I just want to take advantage of this white hot market. It's not zero, there are a few, but most people it's my kids, like my $4 million listing, kid graduating next weekend, and they will officially no longer need a 6,000 square foot house, right? So there's life events that trigger it. Well, that doesn't matter what kind of economy you're in. And it's made better by the fact that it's a seller's market, right? So this great segue into this next slide though, right? Because it's, well, what do we do with all this information? Well, number one, I love that Bart reminded me to send this out because you sound more credible when you talk to people. Yeah, he walked by and he stopped. He saw you. All right. Now I lost my train of thought. So the point I was going to make though is all this information makes you sound more credible to your customer base, right? When you can cite statistics, when you can point out, like, how many of you knew that it was 8 months of inventory for the Great Recession, but only 1 month for this one? That's powerful, right? Like, people can sink their teeth into that and feel better about, okay, this is, because think about it. When's the last time we saw this kind of volatility in the real estate market and in the stock market and in the bond market? Oh, 2008, right? And the average consumer recollection is going to go straight back to 2008 and go, oh crap, here we go again, right? But then you come in and say, no, let me explain why this is different, right? It's a much healthier economy to withstand a recession. And it's a little counterintuitive. So you might get somebody who says, what do you mean healthier? GDP is shrinking, that's the definition, or whatever, right? They may say, they may question that, and you can point out statistically, yes, but inflation is X, home equity is Y, and cite it. You know, home equity was 61 grand, now it's 185. That's a record. So people are in better position to put their homes on the market, and the market has 1 month of inventory, so it's better equipped to withstand it, blah, blah, blah. You can see how these conversations can go a lot of different directions, but when you have this information in your head, you're able to make people feel better, right? So how do we leverage this going forward though, right? Well, you got to remember the 4 cardinal rules of selling real estate. Number one will always be number one. Just like we were talking about with Laine and Armin, right? And your questions were awesome because how are you going to help them remember me? That's a huge problem for most realtors. And at the end of the day, it's our problem to solve, right? But Laine's solution helps me stay top of mind, right? At least with my investor clients. Well, I should be doing the same thing with my non-investor clients. So that means use your CRM. That means use every form of media that you have. Calls, texts, handwritten notes, social media, newsletters, YouTube videos. Let them hear from you and about you from a bunch of different ways. That's how you stay top of mind, right? And the hard part is having a method of it. So it's not all consuming and you don't sell any houses because you're too busy doing social media crap, right? That's a challenge I have for sure, right? Be a resource. So make sure in all that messaging in number one that you mix in, hey, if you ever have a question or if you ever need a referral to a plumber or a roofer or whatever, I want to be the first person you think of. Well, how do I drive that? I drive that by pointing out that our list of subcontractors, do you know how many vendors are on our list? This is going to be another nugget to lock away in your head because it should come up a lot. We have over 200 vendors on our list. So you can look somebody in the eye and say, whether it's a roofer or a plumber or whatever, I'm going to be able to give you 3 or 4 or 5 that you can call. The deal that's closing today, they need a fence. And it's actually a wonderful little family of transactions for me because I put on a first-time homebuyer class for my oldest son. It's one of his buddies. His buddy is married to this gal whose parents are pretty well off, and they've told all 3 of their kids, you need to buy a house and we'll give you a down payment. So now I'm showing houses to all 3 of them, right? And so we were at the sister's house of the buddy, sister-in-law, and the dad says, by the way, do you have any fencing guys? Because for that house that's closing today, Dan needs to put a fence up. And I'm like, do I have? I got like 5 of them. And he goes, well, he's called a couple and he's gotten everything from $10,000 bids to $25,000 bids and everywhere in between. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll set them up. So I went straight home, shot Dan an email and said, hey, I was talking to Phil. He said, you're getting some quotes. Here's 5 other people you should call. And of them, this one's my favorite. Right? And you guys will be able to do the same thing because you'll have firsthand experience with one of them, or you'll call me and say, do you have firsthand experience with any of them? And I'll say, yeah, that guy. Because I flip houses, right? So these are my subs. Plus, Don might have had a great experience with fill in the blank vendor and said, this guy should be added to the list. And they are. So as long as people have firsthand experience from our team, they get on the list. So you can communicate that in social media posts or just in conversation, right? Oh, don't appear too successful on social platforms. This is the #1 mistake that realtors make. Look at me, look what I just listed, look what I just sold, look what I. It's all for their own egos. And it literally will cause a percentage of their audience to go, well, I'm going to give this referral to Chris because
He needs money.
he needs it more than Amir, right? Because Amir's got a sale going every other day. Right. And I've had that happen because we'll do a whole separate training on social media, but I've gone through the sort of evolution of social media, which is you do your own, then you subscribe to get some content, then you pay someone else to do your content, right? And along that continuum, one of the people I hired did a lot of that. And I lost deals. People would it wasn't bragging, but they would want to share with me, hey, I just want to let you know I gave a referral to someone else because they thought it was a good thing and it was not going to hurt my feelings because I'm so damn successful. And I was like, God damn it. But don't make that mistake, right?
Is there a breaking point as to would you ever do that? Or you don't do as much? Or how much is good?
I don't do
Happy medium.
0.
So
Yeah.
0 better?
I don't do 0.
You don't.
I will do just listed because I want to promote it for visibility for the owner of the home. I don't really do just solds, but I will do some story type stuff with the happy customer. Hey, shout out, shout out for Chris, he got this cool house or whatever. It's a good question. I don't have a very good answer for you, but I think you'll know when it's too much.
Well, you want people to know that you're active, successful.
Right.
The people that are looking for someone like this.
Yeah.
Other people
Right. This is beneath you or whatever. I think you do get a lot more out of a post that says, who do you know that would benefit from my service? Because I would love to help them, than you will out of a, look at this house I just sold. So, and the last one is work the phones. You have to make a commitment to yourself to make 20 calls a day, whether it's to your sphere, past clients, leads, whomever. But I know without a doubt, the more people I talk to, the more money I make, period. And I poke fun at myself. Like, you're not making money right now, pick up the phone, right?
That's right.
All right. Any questions on this stuff before we wrap up?
Take a picture of it.
Hey, Ed, got a quick question about the, it was 8 months of inventory back in 07 when everything started to tumble.
Yeah.
Was it, did that hold steady for, because I know that ramped up because everybody became a flipper and, they were literally buying a house, mowing the lawn and, selling it for 40 grand more the next month. Did that stay steady like that or did it slowly ramp up to that?
It was over about a 6-year period. That curve got up to 8 months.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, it's nuts.
What did it spike after everything started to tumble? Did it just get up to like 2 years or something or?
Of inventory?
Yeah, I mean, after everything started to go. And after,
No, that was the peak.
Oh, okay.
8 months was the peak.
Wow. Okay, I was just curious.
So next month, we will meet on Friday, July 8th at 1 o'clock and bring someone if you have somebody that would like some free training. If there's a topic you'd like to see covered, shoot me an email or tell me now. I'll make a note.